In Italy, Nick recalls burning a cigar in Brooke's face when they first met. At the time, he identified himself as Captain Nick Payne. He sighs as he looks out at the lake, recalling how they had become friends. More flashbacks as Brooke, in her suite, recalls whining to Ridge the day before that they are not together. In another suite, Eric reminds Ridge that the clock is ticking, and Nick will not accept no for an answer. Eric appreciates Ridge's desire to keep his pledge to Taylor, but Brooke is the love of his life. Ridge attempts to convince himself that Brooke does not need a guy, and will not fall for Marone's nonsense. Eric, dressed in a bright pink button-down and puffy vest, assures his son that Taylor is safe and reliable, while Brooke makes your heart race. Ridge, thankfully, prevents him from continuing down that road. Undeterred, Eric pushes Ridge to cease penalizing Logan for accepting the CEO role. He overreacted and must address the situation. Ridge knocks on Brooke's apartment door, but she is wearing earphones and cannot hear him. He gives up. As Eric approaches the dock, Nick takes out a ring box and admires the engagement ring inside. The Forrester patriarch's jaw drops to the ground as he realizes Nick intends to propose to Brooke rather than date her. Brooke is reading a nice text from Nick in her apartment when Eric knocks on the door, angry and pretending to be seeking for Ridge. After she gushes about Naples, Eric gets to the point and urges her not to let Nick exploit her vulnerabilities. He randomly begs, "Don't give in to Nick." Brooke says that's who she's going to meet and leaves him alone in her ex-husband/father-in-law's room. Will Finn break Grace? Finn and Bridget debate Liam's questionable surgery in a Los Angeles hospital. He is more determined than ever to speak with Grace Buckingham. They examine the case and determine once again that something is not adding up. Finn and Bridget keep repeating themselves until Grace arrives. Finn puts on his best scary face and asks her about Liam Spencer's miraculous recovery. Rather than face the Grand Inquisition, Grace says they'll just have to trust her and flees. Will Taylor see the light? Katie interrupts her PR duties at the Forrester estate to tease Taylor about Ridge's trip to Italy with Brooke. It happens as expected, and they immediately start squabbling about whether Brooke should be with Nick or Ridge. Katie adds insult to injury by revealing that Eric wishes to have his son with Brooke. Taylor, having learnt nothing from her previous experiences, is confident that Eric will fail if he attempts anything in Italy, and that Brooke will return engaged to Nick. Katie mocks, "You're quite the optimist." Taylor doubles down. Who will show up? Brooke waits for Nick in Italy but is preoccupied with Ridge, prompting another round of flashbacks, including the much-recounted keyhole reunion in Rome. Suddenly, Ridge appears and taps her on the shoulder. According to the Bold and the Beautiful teasers, the woman should have learned her lesson by now, but this does not appear to be the case. Taylor just did something extremely stupid. Needless to say, we are discussing Taylor Hayes. She appears to be unaware of what may occur when Ridge Forrester and Brooke Logan travel to Italy for work in the following weeks. Because if there's one thing we've learned about Ridge Forrester over the years, it's that he doesn't think rationally. Because we all know what his true thoughts are. Taylor, who is meant to be a world-class psychiatrist, is having difficulty forecasting what her fiancé will do with his ex-wife on the other side of the planet. That's strange. Someone please give this woman a clue. Of course, B&B fans had plenty to say about the situation on social media. Some even commented, "Does Miss Achy Breaky Heart Taylor have any reason to be concerned?" Yes, she does, and she is very aware of it. Brooke and Ridge are preparing to fly to Italy for a work trip and rekindle their love. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers. Taylor just did something really stupid. Are Brooke and Ridge going to hook up in Italy? Another show critic remarked, "For once, they should surprise me by writing a business trip that does not involve infidelity." Hopefully, Ridge keeps his hands to himself. There was also this comment. Hopefully he tries not to keep his hands to himself and gets rejected for a change. It is unclear what will happen next. Fans of the Bold and the Beautiful will have to tune in every day to see what happens next. The sun poured through the Forrester mansion's enormous windows, casting golden rays on the polished surfaces and revealing the great interior's intricacies. Eric Forrester remained motionless in the quiet drawing room, the large folder in his hand quivering slightly as he attempted to digest what he had just read. His eyes read the final page again, the dense legal jargon providing no comfort or ambiguity, only brutal certainty. His fingers clenched harder around the edge of the file, as amazement gave way to something colder and heavier: treachery. Nick Marone. That name had previously held significance in his life, shaking his family and disrupting his environment, but this was different. It wasn't simply personal. It was calculated, devious, and astonishingly daring. He heard footsteps behind him and hurriedly closed the folder, placing it in a drawer before turning around. Ridge's face was stiff, his shoulders tighter than usual. "Dad," Ridge responded with a harsh voice. "You all right?" Eric nodded, his usual serenity returning to his face. "I am fine. Just going through some documents." Ridge didn't believe it, but he didn't push. "Not yet." Meanwhile, across town at Il Giardino, Taylor Hayes was drinking coffee by the bar when Katie Logan's voice broke through the background noise. "Fancy seeing you here." Taylor turned slowly, astonished but not completely upset. Katie always carried herself with an energy that was equal parts charming and challenging. "Hello, Katie," Taylor said, neutral but not cold. Katie slid onto the stool next to her. "Are you still running that wellness center? Saving souls one confession at a time?" Taylor grinned slightly. "Some of us prefer healing over scheming." "Ouch," Katie said in mock offense. That almost stung. Taylor took another sip while waiting. "I came by since I had heard your name mentioned around the office," Katie observed casually. "You and Eric have been spending quite a bit of time together again." Her eyes were watching attentively. Taylor did not respond immediately. She was not about to be drawn into gossip. "Eric and I have always cared about each other." "Right," Katie replied, leaning in slightly. "But you might want to be cautious. There are some things happening behind the scenes. Things that may take you off surprise if you aren't paying attention." Taylor arched her brow. "Such as?" Katie shrugged. "Let's just say that not everyone in Eric's circle has the purest intentions." Taylor stiffened slightly. "If there's something I need to know, Katie, just say it." Katie offered her a cryptic smile and touched her arm. "Just consider this a friendly nudge." After Ridge departed, Eric paced the room, unable to contain the thoughts that were flying through his mind. The folder held proof, detailed documentation, of Nick's involvement in a shell corporation that was gradually acquiring shares of Forrester Creations. The name behind the acquisitions had been meticulously concealed, but thanks to a private inquiry launched by Steffi weeks earlier, Eric now had a complete picture. Nick had been positioning himself to take a commanding role. More importantly, he wasn't acting alone. Donna Logan's name surfaced constantly in the background, linked by financial relationships and secret encounters. Eric's heart constricted as he reread the accompanying note from the investigator. Donna Logan met with Marone in secret 6 times in the last 2 months. Location, Marina del Rey, a private yacht. Eric sat down heavily, his age suddenly weighing against him with a gravity he hadn't felt in years. Donna, whom he had welcomed back into his heart after so much pain. Nick, who had once chased Brooke with merciless tenacity, now appeared to be applying the same tactic to Forrester itself. Was it personal? Was it a business? Or is it something far worse? A premeditated revenge disguised as a kind smile? His thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. "Eric." It was Taylor's voice. He opened it and let her inside. When she saw his face, she grimaced. "What's wrong?" He paused. "You ever get the feeling that everyone you trust has been playing a game you didn't know you were in?" She did not respond straight away, instead stepping over to him and gently placed a hand on his arm. "What happened?" Eric debated for a bit before handing her the folder. She read fast, her eyebrows lifting as the entire scope of the idea became apparent. "This can't be right," she mused. "Donna? And Nick?" He nodded. "It is all there. Fake holding companies. Offshore accounts. The meetings." Taylor laid the papers down. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know," he said. "Part of me wants to face them both, ripping off their masks and demanding explanations. But the other part, which is tired of fighting, simply wants to disappear for a bit." Taylor squeezed his hand. "You aren't alone in this. And you are not powerless either." He grinned slightly. "Thank you." Later that day, Katie returned to Spencer Publications, unable to get past Taylor's expression. She had not expected such a controlled reaction. Part of her wanted Taylor to show her claws. Instead, Taylor demonstrated something more powerful, resolve. Bill strolled in, took one glance at her and asked, "You stirring up trouble again?" Katie rolled her eyes. "I prefer to think of it as preventative maintenance." Bill chuckled. "Who's the lucky recipient this time?" "Taylor." He raised an eyebrow. "You sure that's a good idea?" Someone needed to remind her that not everything with Eric is smooth sailing. Bill leaned against the desk. "You still keeping tabs on Marone?" "Always," she replied. "He is up to something. And if I am correct, Eric is going to be caught off guard." Meanwhile, in a sleek, modern condo overlooking the marina, Nick Marone stood at the window, arms folded, watching the sunset below the waterline. The yacht in the distance rocked lightly, almost innocently. Behind him, Donna poured 2 glasses of wine. "We should be careful." Nick turned. "Careful is my middle name. This could blow up in our faces if Eric finds out," she remarked with a grimace. Nick approached, accepted the glass, and met her gaze. "Eric has already gotten his chance. You gave him everything, but what did he give back?" "A comfy cage. You deserve more." Donna hesitated. I didn't expect it to go this far." Nick leaned closer. "And yet here we are." She nodded slowly, but a glimmer of doubt lingered in her eyes. Eric called a meeting the following morning. Only Ridge and Steffi were there. He set the folder in front of them and simply stated, "We have a problem." Steffi read quickly, her jaw tensing. "He's been positioning this for months." Ridge cursed behind his breath. "That bastard." "We need to move fast," Eric remarked. "I want to buy back the shares quietly, before he gets enough to challenge us." "And Donna?" Ridge asked cautiously. Eric looked aside. "Let me handle Donna." Later that afternoon, Donna arrived at the mansion with her normal smile, but it faded when she noticed Eric's face. "Eric." He motioned for her to sit. She did. "I want to ask you something," he stated quietly. "And I want you to be honest." She swallowed. "Okay. Have you been meeting with Nick Marone?" Her look betrayed everything before she could tell a fib. Eric, That's all I needed to know," he stated, standing. "You could have told me. You could have forewarned me. But instead you chose secrecy." "I didn't mean to hurt you," she replied hurriedly. "It started as business, but I didn't realize what he was planning." "But you kept going," he continued, his tone increasing. "Even after you knew." She stood, tears in her eyes. "Because I thought he could help me create something real. Something that was not simply handed to me." Eric stared at her for a long time before saying slowly, "You already had something real. And now it's gone." Donna went without saying anything else, the echo of her heels creating a hollow rhythm along the marble hallway. That evening, Taylor returned to the estate. She discovered Eric outside, standing near the garden, his shadow framed by the dying light. "She came," he murmured, not turning. "I figured she would," Taylor said. Eric turned to face her. "I am exhausted, Taylor. I'm tired of the falsehoods, the betrayals, the masks." She walked up beside him. "Then maybe it's time for something honest." He gazed at her intently. There was no pretension or intention in her eyes, just a steady warmth. Perhaps that was enough for once. Katie was sitting in her office at Spencer Publications, staring out the window when her phone chimed. Eric sent a single text message. "You were right." She smiled to herself, not joyfully, but with bitter satisfaction. Back at the marina, Nick stood alone on the deck of his yacht, the wind tugging on his coat. He looked into the darkness, unconscious that Steffi Forrester was watching him from a neighboring parked car, phone in hand, voice calmly whispering, "We have everything we need." He will not know what hit him. And somewhere in the midst of it all, beneath the glamour and betrayals, love remained, stubborn, vulnerable, and possibly waiting to rise again.